Hi everyone, welcome to our Artist Talk series celebrating the 50th Art Faculty Exhibition as well as the 2020 Graduates Exhibition at the Department of Arts at Howard University. I am Miriam Ahmed. I'm a lecturer in graphic design in the department, and today I am speaking with Professor James Phillips, who is a living legend, I think, and a painter. And he is the man behind the piece that you are seeing in the graphics for the faculty show on screen right now. So, hi, Professor Phillips.
Good morning, how are you?
Great.
Okay.
So, tell me a little bit about what we're seeing. In particular, I'm really interested in what you see when you look at your own work and what other people tell you they see.
Well, there's a big difference because I don't think people see what I see. I mean, what I see is when you look at a piece of my work, whether it's a rectangle, a square, circle, or a oval like this, you're looking into a portable or a window of my world. That's how I see it. I mean, this is my, so to speak, universe that I live in, my own personal universe.
It's a very colorful universe.
Yeah.
Very abstracted.
Huh?
Very abstracted.
Well, thank you. What I did with this particular piece, this is called Juju Series Revisit. Juju is a Nigerian word for magic. That's how it translates. And this was really the the second piece that I created back in the late 60s that was actually moving away from all Western art concept. And at that time, I was pretty much looking at a lot of contemporary African artists, like from Nigeria and other parts of West Africa, like Ibra Papatov in Senegal. And then, of course, in Ethiopia, one of my former colleagues, Professor Splenda Bagazi. So I was looking at the Ethiopian artists too. And I just kind of, from what I was seeing in their work, developed my own personal style and my own personal approach to the way I was going to create art with the emphasis based on my African heritage, which would be my foundation, which I got from reading Alain Locke. That was what he was encouraging all African American artists to look at. But not necessarily the way that Picasso and the Cubans was looking at it. So basically what I did with this particular piece, since it's an oval, and this is actually like the first time I worked on an oval, and it's the first time I worked on canvas in a long time. I kind of deconstructed the original Juju, which was a mixed media piece, and this is all paint, and reconstructed in such a way where I've kind of like changed it. There are a number of faces in it. There's a number of faces in this, but the way I rearranged them is one morphs in from one to another. So, and since it's in that oval format, although I got a sign that would indicate that there is a bottom, it could go horizontal. It could also go what's reading as the top now could be the bottom.
Right.
It depends on. I think the date and the signature kind of like places it in the space that it's in. So And how I started doing series is I was doing paintings, and then I would look at the work, and then painting is sort of like, for me, it's like an additive process. And there's more that I want to add to what I already have down. And then also there's the possibility, like I have started pieces that were horizontal in the beginning, but in the end, they end up being verticals. So the reason why I started working in series is because instead of keep changing the painting, why not go to another piece of canvas or paper stating the new emotions that I have in regard to what I was saying in the original. Because every day, I come in the studio, there's like a different mindset, and that affects the work very much. So it's really about some discipline to keep things focused in a certain way, so I'm not going all over the place.
Well, you have a very distinct and recognizable style, and I was actually going to ask you how did you settle on this style, but thank you so much for sharing a little bit of the origin story of how you started in this career path. Tell us a little bit about how you feel. You spoke about the emotions and how they change from day to day. Can you tell us how you feel when you see this particular piece? Or at least this iteration of the Juju series?
I'm just looking at it, and like when I'm looking at work, for the most part, I'm like looking at technical things in terms of how I could improve and what I want to change.
Critiquing.
Now, well, I'll have to tell you that story later. But anyway, I'm always analyzing the work as I go. Now, when I put some music on something, then that changes my outlook, because then I start relating to the visual work as to how the work is interacting my mind to the music, and I always paint the music. So
what kind of music do you paint to?
That's like, yeah, pretty much, because the way I look at it, they're not telling me what to paint. I'm looking at it as the ancestors speaking to me and giving me directions where to go with my work.
That's interesting. So which particular pieces of music were you listening to when you worked on this piece? Do you remember?
I have, I guess, a set pattern plan. And then there are cases where I might deviate. Like I listen to a lot of jazz, and then occasionally I'll throw in some blues. Then I might throw in some contemporary African pop music, like Phillips Ramson Kuti for example. I might listen to some traditional Ethiopian music. One time I had a great cachet of East Indian music, as well as a lot of music from the Orient, from like Japan and even Indonesia.
That's a very global collection.
Yeah. And well, that's the whole thing, like the whole idea. I want to have the work have this universal effect, but not necessarily coming from Western art history. That having that being the dominant culture in my work.
Okay. So the next question I wanted to ask you is, thinking back to your education as a young artist way back when, And since this is a faculty
Way back when.
exhibition, not so long ago.
Well, since I'm only 75 years old, yeah, you're right, way back when.
But since this is the faculty exhibition, thinking back to when you were a young artist, could you tell us a little bit about a teacher who was particularly impactful to you, to your career trajectory?
Actually, as far as my education in art, I probably really learned more in the streets of Harlem about the art. And there were teachers like when I was first looking at art schools to go to. At that time, I was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And so I went to the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and I met with this black instructor named Louis Sloan. And so I had a conversation with him, and I was telling him about what I was thinking about, and then I was also telling that for the most part, my mother would prefer me going to commercial arts. So he said, well, the academy is not a good place for you to go. Maybe you should go to Philadelphia Museum of Art, which is down the street on the other side of City Hall in South Philadelphia, which is now University for the Arts in Philadelphia. So that's where I ended up going to night school. And then New York just was too much of a draw. And of course, that's where the music was. So I left and I moved to New York and basically was hanging out there on the Lower East Side. And then eventually when I got to Harlem, I met this group of artists called the Way You See Artists, and they had their own gallery. They were very Afrocentric. And things just started falling into place. One of the artists named Ademola Lupe-Fola, he was very much influenced by the Yoruba art because he was a practitioner of the Yoruba religion. And also during this time, I saw an exhibit of this Brazilian artist named Dias Nascimento. And one of the things that I saw that intrigued me was the way they were working somewhat in this like hard edge school, just flat color, not dealing with light and dark, just straight flat colors, straight flat shapes. And that's where I really came up with developing the emphasis for developing what I'm doing. Also at that time, of course, I ran into people like Romero Beard and the people at the County College Library, which is part of the Schomburg. And that's actually where I found Elaine Locke's book. And that's when I started, reading. And that's when I would say my focus shift from the contemporary artists of Africa to African-American artists. So that's kind of like how things develop.
Okay, so you, as I said in the beginning, you're pretty much a living legend, and you've enjoyed a very long and successful career, and you've done many artist talks in different venues and to different global audiences, and you've shared a lot of your professional techniques and your theoretical stance and the history. And so I was wondering if for this particular artist talk, maybe you could share with us something that you've never shared in an artist talk before.
That's probably going to be difficult because every talk I do, after the talk, I always find out, oh, I should have said something about this. I should have said something about that. So I don't know if I'm actually capable of doing that. I mean, I don't have like set rote memory about what I talk about. I just pretty much talk about what I'm doing off the cuff at the time. And one of my dear friends said that the present is the most dangerous time to live in. So I'm always operating on what is happening right now. Now, like I can tell you right now, one of the things I should have mentioned when I was talking about the artists in Harlem was the fact that Aaron Douglas's work was a major influence, particularly what he was doing with those transparencies.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's something that I could speak to well, I generally normally say that at some point. But one of the things is that I would say, because I only said this in one other interview, was going through the whole experience, the whole African experience, back, starting back when artists were going, making these pilgrimages to Africa, like people like John Biggers, that's the first person to come to mind. There are other artists who went to places like Haiti, and they had that experience, which is the closest you can get to Africa without leaving the transatlantic area on this continent. Oh, I know. I came to the conclusion a few years back that really I had been doing this from when I was very, very young. When I first started drawing. I wouldn't want to say I was bored, because if I'd have said that, particularly to my uncle and aunt, they would have found something for me to, do you see those weeds out there in that garden? Why don't you go out there and chop the weeds? But I don't really think I was destructive nature, but I would like pick up these cans. Sometimes it'd be beer cans, sometimes it'd be soup cans. And I'd take a can opener and I would start making these circular shapes around the top. And I realized that's where I came up with the idea of using that triangular motif in my work.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it also opened up the idea to the fact that what I was really doing, which that's also something new that I discovered a few years back. What I'm really doing is called reversible figure ground relationship. So every time I made a triangle with that quote unquote negative shape, created another shape. And those shapes can be played against each other. And sometimes I can get confusing where the viewer can't distinguish the foreground from the background. That's also, I found out that's testillations also. But I really like working with that. I like working with the pyramid shape, and I like changing values with my transparencies and with the strips of color, because the strips of color are like the strip weave process that they use in West Africa, and also in African American quilts. And if you look at a pyramid from above, on all four corners, the triangle, there's a different value of light.
Right.
So that was real big in terms of how I'm dealing with breaking up color, really breaking up space. That's the way I approach it. And also the other thing, I visited the Dominican, and I saw, there was this one house, this farmhouse, and the same colors that they were painting the logs in the log cabin were the same colors that I was using in my painting. So that's when I actually saw the strips that I had borrowed from the West African strip weed was really real. It wasn't nothing. It had some real substance to it. And also, in terms of color symbolism, I use a lot of the color symbolism from the kente cloth.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Professor James Phillips, for sharing.
You're welcome.
Sorry?
No, I said you're welcome.
You're...
Am I through? Oh, wait a minute. I don't know. Maybe I'm not through.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing the history and the story behind your artwork and a little bit of how the thought process works when you create these masterpieces. I think they're masterpieces.
Well,
So thank you so much again.
Okay.
And
you guys have a good day. Go ahead.
Yes, I just need to remind everyone that we are having a scavenger hunt through the exhibitions. And the clue for this week is there are several pieces within the two exhibitions that interrogate the idea of what it means to be American. And these pieces feature stars and stripes, elements of the American flag. And so the scavenger hunt clue this week is how many pieces in both exhibitions feature representations of the American flag. Good luck.